I grew up very much in a respect your elders type of culture. And so that was very much ingrained in me, is that I need to listen to other people's opinions. And so it's really hard when you are going against what you've been told is the right thing to do. And instead, it's like, how can we cultivate a respect for those people, saying like, we appreciate them, we appreciate the fact that they are giving us their opinions, but also know that at times when we really believe that this is the direction that we want to move in, sometimes we have to kind of like hit a little bit of the mute button, or like turn down the volume on some of those outside opinions that are not serving us. Welcome to A Way of Thinking podcast. This podcast is dedicated to lighting the way towards greater inner peace and purpose. Hello and welcome to this episode of A Way of Thinking. I'm your host, Jessica Huang. And in today's episode, we are talking about other people's opinions. So have you ever dealt with this where you're trying to move in a certain direction and it just seems like you're getting bombarded with other people's opinions? Or maybe you're someone who is kind of wanting to get outside opinion because you're not feeling certain about the direction you want to move in. Either way, other people's opinions are definitely something that we need to sort out and sort through. So that is what we will be talking all about in today's episode. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to say is, what is an opinion? So the dictionary definition of an opinion is a view or judgment formed about something, not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. And so it's so important to remember this, that opinions are not facts. They are just someone's opinion, right? They are not based in fact or knowledge or anything like that, and they're not set in stone. And so it's really important as we are getting people's opinions that we're remembering this, that they're not grounded in like the be all end all. So that was the first thing I want to start off with. But as far as when we are getting opinions, so here's the thing. There's one thing I want to make note of is that, especially if you are someone who is trying to change careers, or if you're making any kind of big change in your life, this is one of those places where like it's very, very important to be mindful of the opinions that are coming into you. Because at the end of the day, people's opinions are not based in fact or knowledge, as I just mentioned, but they are instead based on that person, their experience, the opinions that they've received. You know, a lot of it has to do with societal conditioning. So there's so much of this outside influence that is going on. And it really is grounded in that person and their experiences and where they're coming from. So it's so important to remember that when we are facing other people's opinions. Now, the thing about it to remember is taking into account, like, who is this person that is giving you their opinion? And, you know, usually it's friends, it's family. And let's be honest, a lot of the times it is not something that we have even asked for, but it is something that is just being given to us, whether we like it or not. And so it's really important to realize that, especially when it comes to family and friends, your family and friends, while well-intentioned, and I like to remember that, right? Like, we have to remind ourselves that our friends and our family really want the best for us and have good intentions. But despite that fact, their opinion might not be the one that we want to be listening to, or it might be shrouded in a lot of fear, in a lot of concern, in a lot of wanting to keep you safe. And so that's what I mean when I say well-intentioned. It's like, it comes from a good place. I love to remind myself that even when someone is kind of pushing my buttons or giving me an opinion that I just really don't want to hear at that time, I remind myself, I'm like, they want the best for me. They are looking out for me, and I appreciate that. And I don't necessarily have to listen to it. So to give you an example, when I was starting off with really changing directions, starting this podcast, moving into coaching, there were a lot of opinions that really were against me doing this, right? There was a lot of opinions, particularly from my parents, of wanting to keep me in things that felt safe, right? Things that seemed safe, that seemed like the right thing to do. And that is completely based in people's experience, right? Like if they know that what works best is to be in a steady corporate job, then they're going to advocate for a steady corporate job. It's what makes sense to them. And so it's natural for these kind of opinions to come in. And I'm going to do a whole separate episode about family, because I think that one is really challenging in particular and has a lot of different nuances. But today we're focusing on a little bit of a broader perspective of opinions, because you're going to face a lot of outside influence, and family is one of them, but there's also friends, your colleagues. And it's important to realize that your life currently is probably filled with people who are doing things in a similar manner to the way that you are doing things currently. So when I was in corporate, by and large, all my friends were also in corporate jobs. And that was all that they knew. That was all that I knew. And so the opinions of the people in that I had surrounding me at that time were going to be kind of driving me in the same direction that we had been going down. And so especially when you're kind of going against the grain, it is challenging for people to accept that. And also, let's be honest, you're kind of pushing their buttons, because a lot of times people might want to be doing it too, right? Like there's a part of them that would love to be setting down a different path, moving off the corporate track too. And seeing you do it can be triggering to other people, where it's like, well, why are they able to do it and I'm not? And the reality is they could too if they wanted to, but they're choosing not to. And so instead of, supporting you, sometimes people will try and pull you back towards what is familiar and what is safe. And so it's reminding yourself of the fact that is going to occur. It's normal. It's natural for people to want that, because it is comfortable when we're moving in the same direction. And when, it's like we are validating each other's experience when we're moving in the same direction. And so when you're moving in a different direction than where you've been, the people that are where you are currently are going to it's going to feel threatening, or it can, right? Some people, yes, some people will be fully supporting you, wanting you to help you move in that new direction. But there is a certain, there are going to be people in your life who might be threatened by you making this change. And it's not that they are not good friends. It's not that they are like bad people or anything like that. It is simply that you are triggering in them that desire to maybe want to make a change for themselves. And so it's threatening to the way of life that you've been living. So I like to really remind myself of like stepping into someone else's shoes, seeing where they are, and appreciating the fact that they are trying to help you, but also knowing that it's okay if you don't want to listen to them. And so here's the thing. It's like, well, then do I just like negate everyone that I've been around up until this point? Like, no, like, you don't have to cut everyone out of your life. That is not what I'm suggesting at all. But instead, it's more about taking what they're saying with a grain of salt and cultivating more people in your life who are moving in the direction that you are moving in, or who have walked that path before. So I had a whole separate episode about community and support. So if this is resonating with you, definitely go check out that episode. I have a lot of nuggets about cultivating that community and support. But I will reemphasize some of the points from that one, which is that it is so incredibly important for you to surround yourself with people who are moving in the direction that you want to move in. And so if you're someone who is, let's say, for example, that, like I have a client who is an artist. And so it's like, it's not that she is alienating all the people that came from the world that she was in before, but is instead like, how can you find more community of artists? How can you lean in to that community and the people there who are experiencing similar things as you are, who are moving in that similar direction? How can you find coaches, mentors, people to support you who understand your struggles and can help you move in that direction? So that's something that I found incredibly important. I think myself included, like I've been a super people pleaser most of my life, and it's been really challenging because I value the people so much. Like that is part of the problem, right? Is that we value these people and their opinions so much, especially people who are older than us. I grew up very much in a respect your elders type of culture. And so that was very much ingrained in me, is that I need to listen to other people's opinions. And so it's really hard when you are going against what you've been told is the right thing to do. And instead, it's like, how can we cultivate a respect for those people, saying like, we appreciate them, we appreciate the fact that they are giving us their opinions, but also know that at times when we really believe that this is the direction that we want to move in, sometimes we have to kind of like hit a little bit of the mute button, or like turn down the volume on some of those outside opinions that are not serving us. So I've talked a little bit about like that, the who, right? Like how do we deal with like the who of who is it that is really giving us this opinion? So now let's talk a little bit more about the what, and dealing with the fact that people will give us their opinions whether we like it or not. And so it's like, how do we manage the fact that there's all this input coming into our brains all the time? Let's be honest, it's even like social media, like you're scrolling through your feed, and like it's like there's someone telling you every direction and every orientation of information. And the thing about it is like, we have to have kind of a filter in terms of being able to discern like, what do we want to be taking in and what do we not? And so, and the thing about it, as I mentioned, we often really respect these people's opinions. Like we want to be able to, we value them. And the thing is, it's not that we have to completely shut them out, never talk about anything, but there is a certain amount of needing to filter. And so you want to think about it as if like there's like kind of like like a sieve, or like there's sand falling through a sieve, and like some pieces you want to keep it in the sieve, and some of them you just want to let them fall through. And I like thinking of that analogy because it's like you get to pick and choose. And I think that that's what's so important about this, and something that I've really been cultivating in myself and in my clients, is this ability to have that kind of regulation of what we're taking in and what we're not. And it's like, even within one conversation, it's like sometimes there's a lot of garbage that is not serving you, and you got to let it drop through the sieve, and then keep the little nuggets that you are like, oh, that is helpful, like I do want to take that in. So it's so important to kind of regulate in that way. And the way that I like to think about this is, there's a couple things. So like, for one thing, is it knocking you off course? Is it something where you're questioning what you're doing altogether? Notice that. And that's the thing, is like, when these things happen, when you've been bombarded with someone's opinion, I want you to kind of like, you could maybe jot down all the things that they've said and kind of like go through them and see like which ones are serving you and which ones are not. But sometimes in the moment, I will even go like, I'll ask myself, like, is this true? And second to that is like, is this something I want to believe? Because sometimes people will say these, like, we love to talk in exaggerations and these like big grand scheme way of talking sometimes, where it's like everyone does this, or all the people that I know go doing this like fail, like we exaggerate a lot, and we talk in all or nothings. And so it's really important to notice when people are talking in that manner, and take note of, is this something I want to believe? Is this something that is going to help me along my path, or is this something that's going to disrupt me and keep me from moving forward? Because if it is the latter, then maybe it needs to fall through that sieve, and you got to just like take it out into the trash, and it is not for you. So I know, recently I've had people, I've had, well, as I said, well-intentioned friends say things, and sometimes I'm just like, that doesn't serve me. And it's like, I love you, I appreciate you watching out for me, caring for me, but that is not something I want to take on. And I just kindly, gently give my appreciation for it and let it go. So it's not that you're not honoring the people in your life. It's not that you don't care about them, but you don't have to take on other people's beliefs. Like, you get to sit with what reads true for you. This is the thing about all this, is like, when you have decided that you're moving in a different direction and you're striking out into this new creative venture, it is going to require you grounding down in the fact that this is true for you, that this is something that you really want to do. And the thing is that developing strong vision is so important. You can listen back to my episode about visioning that I did at the beginning of the year. That's super helpful. But I want you to really, really cement yourself in that vision. Cement yourself in, like, what is the direction that I really want to go in? Like, what is that kind of, you don't have to have all the details, but just knowing that you're moving in this direction, that you're like, I am no longer letting myself get sucked back into the corporate route and believing that that is like all that I'm allowed to do. Instead, I'm saying, I'm opening myself to the possibility of this creative career. I'm opening myself to the possibility that I can be a writer, a filmmaker, whatever it is, an artist, whatever it is that you want to do. Grounding yourself in the fact that, like, that is the direction that you're moving in is going to help you really discern when these things are coming up, right? Like, it really is helping, it is creating that filter. Because this is what is really going to help you build up that resilience, is really knowing, like, this is where I'm going. And as much as this external feedback can come in, I'm not letting it shake my foundation. Your foundation is the clarity of the direction you're moving in, even if you don't know exactly what you want to do. And I want to make that really clear. Like, even if you're like, I want to leave corporate and strike out in a new direction and build something that feels like good for me, feeds my soul, is more creative, is outside of that box, but I don't know exactly what it is. Even if that's the case, like, that is your foundation. The foundation is that you're making this change for yourself, and that you're honoring your authentic self in the direction that would fill up your cup and feel right for you. And so grounding yourself in that idea is going to help you kind of combat some of this feedback. It's like, you get to choose that this is where you want to go. And I want you to really realize that it is like, and I think that is so powerful about changing directions, is that, and especially this kind of change in directions, is like, it's your choice, right? It's your choice, but empower yourself with that. Like, don't let it be something where you're like, oh, well, what if I choose wrong? No, like, you're choosing this for yourself because it feels right to you. And so it's developing that trust and that belief that, like, you get to make this decision for yourself, and like, you're going to figure it out. It is really going to help you kind of combat that that unwanted feedback. And a little thing about that is it's amazing when you make that choice, because I feel, something I firmly believe is that when you make that decision, when you say, like, I'm choosing myself and the direction that I'm moving in, and I'm firmly planting myself down in this decision, the universe is going to respond and it's going to help you move in that direction. I firmly believe that. I was watching this with a client the other day, and she's like been on this journey of figuring out what direction she wants to move in. And she was kind of like weighing out all these different options in terms of like taking some time off and like going somewhere. And when she really sat down with like, what do I want to experience, and like, what kind of environment do I want to be in, and went in the direction of what felt good for her, it was like she met the right people, she had these great experiences, and she came back like lit up and so excited and like with this gusto. And I was just like, that is what we want to be feeding more of, right? And then from there, it's like, when we were meeting together, it was like I got to kind of like double down on that effect, right? It's like, let's really hone in on that feeling. Let's really tell the universe, like, this is what I want more of. This is the direction that I'm moving in. I want more of these conversations. I want to meet more of this kind of person, because they are the ones that are going to inspire me to move in the direction that I'm moving in and not stay stuck where I am. Because that's the thing. It's like, we gotta feed and nourish the experiences that are giving us the like, yes, this is the way I want to go. And so that is so much of what we want to be building into. Is it's quieting down and releasing the things that are holding us back, that are not serving us, and it is lifting up and making louder the voice and the experiences that are feeling like, yes, this is the direction I want to be moving in. That's what I want you to remember. Tune down what is not serving you, lift up what feels good, right, and is moving you in the direction you want to move in. All right. So now that we've talked through the three parts of who is really giving us their opinion, what are they saying, how do we kind of create that filter so that we're not taking it all in and we're taking in the good stuff and leaving behind the stuff that is not serving us, and cultivating that really strong, steady inner wisdom and foundation for us to stand on. That is what is going to help us move forward. So I hope this has been helpful, and I hope that you can quiet down some of those outside opinions, let them go. Don't feed into them. Don't let them rock you, shake your foundation, throw you off course, and instead plant yourself in what you really want for yourself, because you know best. And I want you to remember that is like, you have the ability to really hold true to the direction that you want to move in. And I firmly believe that whatever it is that you are trying to do is important, meaningful, and is meant to come into this world. So thank you so much. If it is helpful to you to get more assistance in really navigating these tough conversations and really having the support you need to tune out and filter through the outside opinions that are coming in, then I would be so happy to support you in your journey in moving, in changing directions. And so please, in the show notes, you can book a free sales call with me, and I would be delighted to help guide you in this journey, because it isn't easy all the time. There's sometimes, especially with those sticky spots, there are some opinions where they really can drill a hole into your head, and it can really feel like it's weighing you down and hold you back. And I don't want that for you. So please come book a sales call with me, and let's get started in really helping you move into that next phase of your life without the strain of everyone else's opinions bombarding you. So, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. It's been so wonderful talking about this. It's definitely a journey that I am so familiar with, and I would be honored to help guide you in your own journey. So, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.